This was not a game where the paint points were easy to come by. You saw Robert Williams waiting at the basket all night long. You saw Luke Cornett getting a couple of blocks. You saw the size at the rim changing the way teams were able to attack. And for the most part, for a good portion of this game, Portland actually controlled because you could feel their size. You could feel the difference in the size. Jrue Holiday's strength was allowing him to get to his spots pretty well. And Deni Avdija was able to get to the foul line a million times. This is something that has consistently been a problem for the Spurs in this matchup. Deni can beat people off the dribble. He couldn't make a shot to save his damn life tonight. And there's some stuff with Deni's touch that just isn't quite there. Like when you talk about the difference between Deni and a guy like Luka, that there are some similarities between, it's actually kind of similar to the differences between like Şengün and Nikola Jokic, which is like there's this rough approximation of like big ball handler that can shoot some step back threes and can put a guy in jail and work down the lane line and hit a floater and make the passing reads. But like, hey guys, sorry to interrupt. If you've made it this far, it would mean a lot to us if you would just hit that subscribe button really quick. Luka has this like all universe touch, right? And Deni just doesn't, right? And then like Şengün will take a sombor shuffle like he did tonight, or he'll take a lot of these fancy footwork post moves, but like just so many of them go clanging off the rim. And now is probably the wrong time to make that statement after Jokic went 5 for 16 from 2 last night. But that's the difference between Şengün and Jokic, is he struggles with the actual touch on those shots. So Deni goes 3 for 15, but he gets to the foul line a million times. You get this brilliant night from Jrue Holiday. Scoot Henderson has a good night shooting the basketball again. And the Blazers look like they're in control. And then just similar to what happened in that fourth quarter run back in San Antonio in game 2, everything flipped in that late third quarter. And, you know, one of the things that we talked about in game 1, if you guys remember, when I talked about the Victor Wembanyama version of the series, which is what we've got to recalibrate for, because that's where this is going, right? Like game 4, I would imagine Victor Wembanyama will be back, and this series is going to look a lot more like it did in game 1, right? And what we talked about when Victor Wembanyama was on the floor, one of the big things that stood out to me in game 1 is like when the Spurs guards really compete on the ball, they can actually do a pretty good job of containing the basketball versus this Portland team. And they can actually reach a level defensively where on the other end, I felt like their guards were able to pretty easily penetrate the point of attack defense for Portland. It was something that was readily apparent early in the series, and that's really the dynamic that turned in that third quarter. All of a sudden, it was Steph Castle getting wherever he wants, Dylan Harper getting wherever he wants. Both of those guys added that surgical shot-making piece, which we'll get to here in a second. But on the other end of the floor, they strangled the life out of that Portland offense. And after giving up 65 points in the first half, they allowed just 43 in the second half. That was really the story of this game. Like, that's what makes it really scary when you want to like kind of contextualize and try to understand the difference between the Wemby on and the Wemby off groups and where their struggles have been. It kind of reminds me of some of the conversations we had about the Timberwolves with Gobert off the floor, where there's this idea like, oh, they can't guard without Gobert, but then you watch them and it's like, yeah, they can. They have the ability when they really engage themselves athletically to be a problem on the perimeter in a way that makes rim protection less important. And I have seen it multiple stretches of this series, even when Wemby's off the floor, San Antonio's guards and perimeter defenders have been able to slide their feet and contain the ball in a way that has allowed them to win games on defense without Wemby on the floor. What makes that so exciting, you know, Jackson and I were talking before the show, like this is why you want to see OKC versus San Antonio so bad, because it's like in many ways they are the direct foil for what Oklahoma City likes to do. And that's why they had so much success in that matchup this year. It wasn't just Wemby at the rim. It was the combination of Wemby at the rim and having these legitimate, like transcendently great guard prospects in terms of their athletic tools that they have available to them that can offer these contests as OKC's perimeter players have to lean on pull-ups more that cause legitimate problems. And you saw that tonight. You saw a lot of like Scoot Henderson and Deni Avdija pulling up in the short to mid-range and like all of a sudden being surprised by a contest or struggling to really gather the ball in those spots on the floor. Like before we even talk about anything with Steph and Dylan Harper's offense, because those dudes hung 60 points tonight, I just was really impressed by the defense of the Spurs in that second half. I thought they reached a level that is the type of level that if you combine that perimeter containment from that second half with Victor Wembanyama it's just going to be really difficult to beat this Spurs team 4 times out of 7. And that extends not just for OKC, but for Denver and for any other team in the league. That's the ceiling defensively where it buys these young players a lot of margin for error to win games on the other end of the floor. And then again, with Steph Castle and Dylan Harper, just Steph has always had this unique ability to get to his spots. And I thought he did a really nice job just kind of manipulating the drop coverage tonight to get into the foul, to get into that like middle of the floor and draw fouls. He faced some unders and some aggressive help situations where guys were helping off of him, and he was able to knock down threes tonight. Just an easy 33 for him. And then Dylan Harper, like, there was a moment there in that late third quarter where Scoot Henderson drives past him. I talk all the time about the leverage battle on drives. And Scoot wins a leverage battle, drives past Dylan and turns the corner like late in a drive and gets all the way to the basket, turns and talks shit to him. And it like ignited something in Dylan that was really fun to watch, because that last few minutes of the third quarter when he really took off after that was frightening for the future of the league. You're talking about a guy that, in addition to having that nuclear athleticism towards the rim, that driving dunk, goes right past Scoot on the baseline and just poster dunk at the rim with his left hand, the ability to knock down jump shots from three-point land, the ability to knock down jump shots from the middle of the floor that he's demonstrated at several points this season. He had this disgusting spin move in that run where he just like pivots on a dime and gets downhill and has a drop-off pass for a dunk. Just an unbelievable stretch from Dylan Harper there. Plus 25 in 30 minutes tonight, 9 for 12 from the field, 4 for 5 from 3. I said this on Twitter, but like it kind of felt like we got to see a time machine and to see, because Dylan, his role on this team is going to fluctuate, obviously, as things change. Like, this was a version of the team that depended on guard shot creation a lot. When Victor's in there, it's a little different, right? We've seen stretches where Dylan's closed games for the team, but it kind of felt like a little sight of the future. And, you know, there's a conversation to be had about whether or not Con Knipple would have been maybe a better fit for one season, which I think is debatable even in and of itself. But there's no doubt that in terms of the big picture potential of Dylan, his ceiling is something that I think is beyond what we're even really ready to admit. Like, that is a guy that has legitimate superstar upside. In addition to Steph, who's had a season where he's demonstrated that a million times, and Victor Wembanyama, who may or may not already be the best player in the world. Like, if you're a Spurs fan, I don't know how you could possibly be more excited about the young core between those three guys. Just an unbelievable performance to get a win on the road without Wemby. Now, again, series is going to look fundamentally different in game 4 with Wemby back in the picture. It's just a way more dramatic version of that dynamic with their ability to shut off the paint for Portland. So looks like San Antonio's in control right now. I'd be surprised if they didn't end this thing in 5.